The fairground is dying slow. Neon leaks across wet asphalt, colors bleeding like a bruise under the skin of night. The rides creak without motion, sighing with the wind that smells of rain, rust, and burnt sugar. Somewhere deep inside the dark, a calliope coughs through broken speakers, a ghost of a song from a summer that ended too suddenly. Kayla Reeves should be home. 16, all elbows and eyeliner, too sharp for her mother's rules and too restless for the quiet cul-de-sac at the edge of town. She shouldn't have been here after midnight, barefoot on the cooling metal platform of the sky coaster, climbing the fence with her boyfriend filming on a cracked Motorola. The park had been closed for hours. But teenagers have always been better at finding open gates than answers. The sky coaster looms above them like a gallows, two silver towers joined by a web of cable, swaying faintly in the Georgia wind. Below it, the reflection of the moon floats in the puddled asphalt, warped by the ripples of oil and rainwater. The boy behind the camera whispers, "You sure about this?" but he doesn't stop recording. Kayla clips herself into the harness, laughing through her fear. The sound carries, thin and bright, cutting through the humid dark like glass. She counts down from 3 and jumps, screaming, wild, alive. For a moment, she is pure sound and movement, a comet of denim and light streaking through the night. The cable winds, stretches, sings. Then, something else joins the song. It's almost too quiet to notice. A second vibration under the first, deeper, wrong. Like something enormous plucking a guitar string far beneath the ground. The boy lowers the camera. Kayla. The wind stops. The cable glows faintly in the floodlight. A shadow crawls up the line, no shape, no form, just density, a blot of moving dark that eats the light as it climbs. Kayla sees it too late. The scream breaks mid-breath. The harness jerks, whips sideways. The boy catches one last frame, her eyes wide, the reflection of something spiraling down toward her, and then the feed tears into static. The phone keeps recording the empty air. The cable twitches, like it's breathing. Then it snaps. The recoil echoes across the empty park, a gunshot of steel and wind. The harness spins, empty. The camera falls, lands in a puddle, lens pointed up at the towers. Raindrops begin to fall, slow, deliberate. Each drop hisses when it hits the metal, like the park itself is whispering. The lights flicker once. Twice. Then everything dies. Morning. Police tape flutters like party streamers around the sky coaster base. Reporters stand knee-deep in puddles, umbrellas tilting under the weight of the gray sky. The anchors smile their practiced tragedy smiles. A Six Flags employee discovered the scene early this morning. 16-year-old Kayla Reeves was last seen around midnight. Her mother's voice plays over the broadcast, trembling. She was supposed to be home by 11. The county sheriff wipes rain off his hat and mutters to the press, "Cable failure. Accidental." Behind him, the ride still drips water, the broken cable swaying faintly like a noose. The maintenance log says the steel was sound. The footage from the park security booth is missing. The boy is found wandering 3 miles away, barefoot, half-naked, covered in pink sugar dust. He doesn't speak. The only thing he does is hum, the same carousel tune on repeat. When they pry open his clenched fist, there's a clump of hair inside, knotted with copper wire. The park closes within a week. Lawsuits settle quietly. A shell company buys the land at auction in 2011, promising redevelopment. They fence the place, shut off the power, lock the gates. But the locals keep seeing lights, neon bleeding under the clouds long after midnight. The sign at the entrance fades year by year. Six Flags Over Georgia becomes the Midway. Present day. Wind sighs across the abandoned lot, heavy with the scent of rust and old rain. The sky coaster still stands, skeletal, draped in vines and silence. The cable, replaced, rest-rung, repaired, hangs loose, swaying gently like a pendulum marking time that never moves forward. A crow lands on the crossbeam, caws once, and something answers from below the concrete. For years the locals have stayed away. Teenagers who trespass don't come back. The last security guard quit after he found the walkie-talkie still broadcasting a child's laugh. Yet once a week, a flatbed truck rumbles through the front gate. It parks near the old funnel cake stand. Men in reflective vests unload crates labeled Carnavale Midway Enterprises and vanish into the dark. Nobody ever sees them leave. Inside the frozen yogurt stand, the one with the bullet hole in the plexiglass and the faded, "Have a sweet day" sticker, a single fluorescent light still works. It flickers in time with the hum of an old Coca-Cola fridge. On the counter lies a stack of W-2 forms, blank except for the logo at the top. Same faded roller coaster design. Same corporate address that doesn't exist on any map. The clock on the wall is stopped at 3:33. Some nights, when the wind is right, the speakers scattered around the park crackle to life. They play the old safety announcement. Please keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times. A pause. Then, softly, a girl's voice whispers through the static. I didn't let go. Elsewhere, 40 miles south, Jess Valdez wakes to her phone buzzing on the nightstand. The Craigslist ad glows against the cracked screen. Carnavale Midway Enterprises. Night maintenance, $1,000 per week cash. Must provide own flashlight. No references required. She stares at it for a long time. Rent is due. Her brother's court fees are overdue. Her name is still flagged on every police database in the state. A job's a job. Outside her window, thunder rolls toward Atlanta like a slow-moving train. The reflection of the lightning flashes in the lens of her old Nikon, sitting on the dresser like an accusation. She reaches for it, then stops herself. Takes a breath. The next sound is her car starting. Back at the Midway, rain begins to fall again, thin and cold. The cable on the sky coaster trembles, swinging side to side as if stirred by breath. For a heartbeat, a silhouette flashes between the towers, a girl suspended upside down, hair hanging, eyes open. Then she's gone. The sign over the main gate groans in the wind, one flickering bulb still alive in the word Midway. The letters glow pink against the storm, and beneath them, the asphalt reflects a shimmer of movement. Footprints. Fresh ones. Leading straight toward the frozen yogurt stand. Inside, the light flickers once more and steadies. The refrigerator door creaks open by itself. Frosted air spills out in a slow cloud. On the back wall, carved into the steel with something sharp, are 6 words that have never rusted. Feed Old Glory at 3:33 a.m. A drop of pink sugar falls from the ceiling and lands on the counter with a soft hiss. The air smells of burnt meat. The clock begins to tick again. And from somewhere deep beneath the park, far below the sky coaster foundations, where the old service tunnels breathe, comes the sound of chains dragging over concrete, moving toward the surface. Jess Valdez reaches the Cherokee County exit sometime after midnight. The GPS has been buffering for miles, blue circles spinning endlessly over black nothing. She drives by instinct now, following the rhythm of the radio static and the hum of tires through rainwater. Her headlights sweep across empty billboards where cartoon mascots once grinned, their faces peeled to gray paper. The road narrows, turns to cracked asphalt. Kudzu eats the guardrails. A half-collapsed sign tilts at the final curve. Welcome to the Midway, where the fun never sleeps. Below, someone has spray-painted, but you might. She pulls up to the gate. Rusted padlock. Floodlights dead. Beyond the chain link, the skeleton of the park glows faintly under lightning, roller coaster loops frozen mid-scream, concession stands bowed like tombstones. Her phone buzzes once, unknown number, drive in. Keys under the cone. The message deletes itself before she can screenshot it. There is a traffic cone by the gate. Under it, a ring of keys, each labeled with a tiny metal tag stamped property of Carnavale Midway Enterprises. She unlocks the gate, drives through. The hinges shriek like a living thing. Inside, rain thins to mist. The world feels insulated, wrapped in wool. Her headlights catch 100 empty prize shelves, stuffed bears turned gray with mildew. A carousel half visible in the fog, its horses stripped to bone and paint, poles rusted through their ribs. Her radio dies first, then the dashboard clock. The second hand freezes at 3:33. Jess parks by the frozen yogurt stand. The interior light flickers, and behind it, a figure waits, arms crossed, broad shoulders filling the doorway. Mick Cole Ransom looks carved from the same metal as the rides. Beard grown in gray patches, left eye cloudy, hands scarred like he wrestled ghosts. The name patch on his jacket reads security, but the letters have been burned halfway off. Valdez. His voice sounds like sandpaper dragged across steel. Yeah, she says. Craigslist ad. He studies her for a long moment, like he's checking for cracks in glass. Then, you brought a flashlight. She nods, lifts the small LED from her bag. Good. You'll need a bigger one. He turns, gestures her inside. The yogurt stand smells of bleach and thawed meat. On the counter lies a park map laminated in plastic and dotted with stains dark as old blood. Next to it sits a coffee mug that reads World's Number 2 Boss. Steam curls from the black liquid inside, though she never saw him pour it. Cole taps the map with a finger that looks like it's been broken more than once. Orientation time. 6 rules. You follow them, you go home with your $1,000. Break 1, he glances toward the freezer. You don't go home. Jess smirks. I've worked homicide scenes. I can handle a haunted merry-go-round. His gaze doesn't change. That's what the last one said. Before the freezer found him. He slides her a laminated sheet. The typewriter font is uneven, smudged. Each rule is numbered in red ink. The edges of the paper look singed. Rule number 1, never open the green service tunnel under the log flume. Rule number 2, feed Old Glory at 3:33 a.m. sharp. Rule number 3, do not separate the twin janitors if they fight. Rule number 4, never eat the cotton candy after midnight. Rule number 5, if someone asks for ride number 13, say it's under maintenance. Rule number 6, walk the perimeter chain every night before dawn. She reads them twice, the absurdity sharpening like cold air. This is a joke, right? Employee hazing. Cole doesn't smile. You think so, you'll fit right in. He lights a cigarette from a Zippo that bears a marine emblem, the flame painting the wrinkles under his eyes orange. Your shift starts now. I'll walk you through the first patrol. They step out into the mist. The rain has stopped, but water still drips from the coaster rails like slow applause. Floodlights flicker to life down the main Midway strip, one after another, casting everything in sodium gold. Jess notices the bulbs hum at slightly different frequencies. Together they form a low, steady chord. Almost like a heartbeat. Cole walks with the limp of an old wound, cane tapping the ground in rhythm. Park's got a routine. You respect it, it leaves you alone. She frowns. He doesn't answer. Instead he points to the log flume. The ride sits half-sunken in its own stagnant water, plastic logs floating like coffins. Beneath the loading dock, a corrugated steel gate marked green service hangs on a single hinge. Tunnel runs under half the park, he says. Maintenance access. Or used to be. Some kids pried it open back in 2011. Live streamed it. He exhales smoke that curls into the shape of the number 8 before breaking apart. We found his GoPro in the mail a week later. Tongue in the box. Addressed to HR. Jess swallows. You really expect me to believe that? Expect you to stay the hell away from that gate. They move on. Past the carousel, where something faintly hums inside the unplugged cotton candy machine. The air smells sweet and coppery, like syrup over rust. Jess shines her flashlight through the glass. Pink threads still spin slowly, though the plug lies in the dirt. In the reflection of the glass, she catches a face, pale, open-mouthed, but when she turns, it's gone. She exhales, forces a laugh. Great special effects budget. Cole mutters, ain't ours. At the food court, he stops by a walk-in freezer bolted to the wall. A sign taped to it reads employees only, 3:33 a.m. feeding. He opens the door just long enough for a wave of mist to roll out. The temperature drop makes her flashlight flicker. Inside, shapes hang from hooks, plastic bags of steak, sealed boxes of fries. And in the corner, something larger under a tarp. The outline looks wrong for an animal. Too tall. Too merged. Cole pulls the door shut. Old Glory. Retired mascot. Don't look at him longer than you have to. Just feed him, count to 10, get out. Jess studies him. And if I'm late? The freezer locks. From the inside. He starts walking again. The rides around them moan in the wind, cables creaking overhead like tired lungs. Somewhere distant, a carousel tune drifts through the static of broken speakers. She finally asks, why keep this place running? It's dead. Cole stops. Looks back at her with the faintest smile, more a twitch of resignation than humor. Parks like this don't die. They just get hungry. Lightning flashes, throwing his shadow across the ground. For an instant, his outline stretches wrong, too tall, split at the shoulders, like there are two of him. Then it's gone. He leads her to the security booth by the Ferris wheel. The wheel itself hasn't turned in years, yet one gondola sways gently in the still air. The chain fence nearby gleams wet, every link tagged with a brass number. This is the perimeter, Cole says. Start here every night, end at Boomtown Gate. If you find a loose link, you tighten it. What happens if I don't? He exhales smoke, lets it drift upward until it disappears into the dark. Then something rides the tracks backward. She opens her mouth to press him, but the radio on his belt crackles, soft at first, then sharp. A voice sings through static, welcome back to the Midway, where dreams go round and round. Cole snatches the radio, clicks it off. His hand trembles slightly. They shouldn't be broadcasting tonight, he mutters. They. He doesn't explain. Instead he stares up at the Ferris wheel. One of the gondolas, high near the top, begins to turn slowly. No wind. No power. Just movement, smooth, deliberate. Jess lifts her camera on reflex, snaps a photo. The flash bursts against the dark. When she checks the screen, there's only static fuzz where the gondola should be, like the pixels refuse to show what was there. Cole's expression tightens. Let's get inside. They retreat to the booth. Inside, everything smells of ozone and cheap cologne. A metal locker stands open, stuffed with old uniforms and Polaroids of smiling employees. On the wall, pinned above the desk, hangs a photo labeled Staff of 2009. Kayla Reeves grins from the front row, arm around another girl wearing the Old Glory mascot head, half eagle, half lion, stitched together like a taxidermy Frankenstein. Jess touches the edge of the photo. She's the missing one, isn't she? Cole looks away. Don't get attached to the dead here. They remember. The lights flicker. Outside, the Ferris wheel stops. Everything goes silent except the drip of water from the roof. Then the park speakers crackle alive again, soft female voice, distorted but unmistakable. Hands and feet inside the ride at all times. A pause. Jess, don't let go. Her name. The sound dies. Cole kills the breaker switch, plunging the booth into darkness. His cigarette glows like a single red eye. You didn't tell me she had a sister, he says quietly. Jess freezes. What did you just say? He doesn't answer. Only looks out through the window, where the cable of the skycoaster sways against the lightning, gleaming like wet wire. Somewhere out there, a ride starts running backward. I remember the first night I broke the rules. You'd think after hearing that list from Cole, 6 sentences of pure madness, I'd treat them like gospel. But fear and exhaustion make strange math. By 2 a.m., the Midway didn't feel haunted. It just felt empty. The rain had stopped hours ago, leaving the ride slick and glistening under the weak floodlights. Fog pressed low against the ground, thick as breath. Every sound carried too far, the distant clang of a chain, the soft metallic sigh of the skycoaster cables shifting in their sleep. I was supposed to check the perimeter, then head back to the booth. Instead, I kept seeing that green service tunnel. Cole had left early, limping toward his truck with a warning growled over his shoulder. Whatever you do, don't go under the flume. But I'm the kind of person who needs to see the wound to believe it bleeds. And the tunnel called to me. I told myself it was just curiosity. But when I passed the log flume loading dock, flashlight trembling in my hand, the air changed, colder, heavier, like walking underwater. The gate was there, same as before, half-hinged and wrapped in yellow tape that said "Keep Out" in faded ink. Someone had carved words into the steel just below it. I brushed away the rust and read them under the beam. 0 days since incident. The number had been scratched out. Behind the gate, darkness ran deep, not the kind that hides things but the kind that swallows them. The flashlight caught glimpses, water stains, maintenance ladders, graffiti spiraling inward like fingerprints. A smell came next. Not rot, not sewage. Something sweet. Like carnival sugar, wet and sour. I should have turned around right there. But the padlock was broken clean through, the metal bent outward, not inward. Something had pushed its way out of that tunnel. Still, I stepped inside. The floor dipped under my boots, slick with condensation. Sound died. My own breathing echoed too loud, like I'd walked into the inside of a throat. The walls pulsed faintly with condensation, beads of water trembling in rhythm to a heartbeat I couldn't hear but somehow felt through my ribs. Every 20 feet, an old emergency light flickered on the ceiling, cycling red to green to dark again. The tunnel forked ahead. Left, a corridor marked electrical access, ride number 5. Right, a low crawl space with a sign scrawled in marker, storage/employees only. I went right. The air turned thicker, almost syrupy. Something wet dripped on my shoulder. When I shined the beam upward, it hit metal hooks bolted along the ceiling. Old uniforms hung from them, faded shirts, name tags still pinned. Each shirt was missing its collar. Each tag was clean, too clean, like someone had polished them recently. Then the beam caught something worse. A Polaroid. Pinned to the wall with a nail, corners curling. It showed a man in a Carnavale Midway uniform smiling at the camera, tongue sticking out like a joke. Only, the photo wasn't flat. The tongue was real. Pressed into the film, dried and blackened like leather. The light flickered. A whisper rippled down the corridor, too soft to catch words. I tried the camera app on my phone, static. The signal bar said, 13. And then I saw them. Along the right wall, under a row of broken fluorescent tubes, were dozens of Polaroids. Every single one showed an employee's face. Every mouth sewn shut with silver wire. At the bottom of each picture, in red marker, a date. The last one read October 17th, Jess Valdez. My stomach went ice cold. The ink was still wet. I heard movement behind me, a scrape, slow, dragging. When I turned, the emergency light had switched to red and stayed that way. Something stood at the tunnel entrance, crouched low enough that its fingers brushed the ground. At first I thought it was a person in uniform, gray shirt, park badge, but its head tilted too far, neck bending until it cracked like a knuckle. A sound came from its mouth, not speech, not growl. A recording. Please keep your hands and feet inside the ride. The voice warped, slowed. At all times. Then, in a smaller voice beneath it, a girl whispering, I didn't let go. I stumbled backward, slipped on the wet floor, hit the wall. The thing moved closer, dragging a length of ride cable behind it like a leash. It left a smear of pink sugar on the concrete wherever it touched. When it finally stepped into the flashlight circle, I saw its face, or what was left. Half of it was human, half taxidermy eagle. The seam ran diagonal across its skull, stitched with wire. Its tongue hung loose, thick as a rope, dragging on the floor. Old glory. But mascots don't breathe. And this one did, wheezing, labored, like it was inhaling me. I ran. Didn't think. Just turned and sprinted down the main corridor, shoes slapping echoes into the dark. The tunnel branched again and again, too many turns, impossible angles. Somewhere behind me the dragging got faster. I turned left, ducked under a low arch. The air tasted like battery acid. My flashlight sputtered. When it came back, the walls were closer, too close, pressing in. Faces in the concrete, outlines pushing through like clay. Each one opened its mouth as I passed, but no sound came out. Only air, warm, wet, against my skin. Ahead, I saw light. A door. Green paint, peeling, exit sign above it glowing faintly. I slammed into it full force, locked. The dragging stopped. Silence. Then, softly, a tap against the door from the other side. Once. Twice. Then 6 times, matching the rhythm of my heartbeat. A voice whispered right against the keyhole. "You're early." The freezer. Rule number 2. I turned. Old Glory was gone. Only the Polaroids remained, all the mouths now open. I bolted back the way I came, following the faint hum of the park above. The tunnel stretched longer than it should have, bends repeating, gravity tilting sideways. I remember tripping, falling hard onto concrete, the world breaking into black and white flashes. When I woke, I was lying outside the gate. Rain again. The clock on my phone read 3:33 a.m. The padlock was back on the gate, good as new. But something was in my pocket. A Polaroid. Of me. Taken from behind. In the photo, I'm holding my flashlight and facing the wall of portraits. But every one of those sewn mouths is turned toward me, smiling through the wire. I threw it into the mud and ran until the fog thinned and the security booth lights came back into view. Cole was waiting by the door, cigarette burning low. He looked at me, said nothing. Just reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded napkin, and handed it over. Inside it was a human tongue. Still wet. Still warm. "Yours?" he asked. I shook my head, shaking all over. He nodded like that was the answer he expected. "Then it's someone's turn to feed Old Glory." He pocketed the napkin, turned back toward the park, and limped into the mist. The freezer light came on by itself, spilling a rectangle of cold white onto the ground. I swear I heard something inside chewing, slow, steady, grateful. That's when I realized I hadn't said a word the whole time. My throat burned. When I reached up to touch it, there was a thin line just under the skin, raised, tender. A scar I didn't have yesterday. Like something had once been sewn shut there and carefully unstitched. I didn't sleep after the tunnel. Didn't even try. Cole said nothing when I showed up for the next shift, eyes red, fingers trembling around a gas station coffee. He just handed me a clipboard with a single note scrawled across the top. "Tonight you feed Old Glory." He didn't say it like a command. He said it like an apology. The sun had barely dipped behind the coaster rails when the fog rolled back in, thicker than ever. It poured through the cracked parking lot like dry ice spilling from a wound. The park lights flickered alive one by one, same rhythm as the heartbeat hum from the night before. By 3 a.m., the world had gone silent again. No crickets. No wind. Even the puddles seemed to stop rippling. Cole met me outside the frozen yogurt stand. He was already smoking, the ember burning like an eye in the dark. "Clock's ticking," he said. "Don't be late." I checked my phone. 3:28 a.m. He handed me a small tray, silver, dented, lined with wax paper. On it sat a ribeye, still bleeding, and a paper cup of sweet potato fries. The smell was wrong. Too sweet, too familiar. "Where'd this come from?" I asked. He looked away. "Best not to know your supplier." The freezer door loomed behind him, sweating condensation. Frost crawled from its hinges across the floor, leaving thin trails like veins. A single bulb flickered overhead, casting light in slow motion. Cole tapped his watch. 3:33 sharp. Not a second before, not a second after. What happens if I'm late? He met my eyes. "You've seen the freezer ceiling." I hadn't, but I didn't ask again. He turned, limping off into the fog, cane tapping like a metronome for ghosts. The closer it got to 3:33, the more the world compressed. The hum in the air rose, higher, sharper, until it wasn't sound anymore but pressure, behind my eyes, in my teeth. When the clock hit 3:33, the freezer latch clicked by itself. The door opened an inch, exhaling mist so cold it burned. I stepped inside. The first thing that hit me was the smell, copper and frost, sweet like old blood over ice cream. My flashlight beam caught glints of hooks overhead, but the meat hanging from them wasn't uniform. Some shapes were too thin. Some were wearing shoes. In the far corner, something waited under a tarp. The shape was wrong, slumped forward like a broken parade float. I set the tray on the steel counter. The sound echoed. "Dinner's served," I whispered, trying to sound braver than I felt. The tarp shifted. Once. Twice. Then slowly peeled back, like a curtain rising. Old Glory looked worse up close. Half lion, half eagle, all nightmare. Taxidermy gone necrotic, fur matted with frost, feathers stiff as knives. One glass eye was missing, the socket behind it pulsed wetly, like something alive still peered through. The taxidermy stitches down its chest bulged and twitched with breath. The mouth opened. Not wide, just enough for air to move through. And I swear I heard words. "You're late." I froze. The clock on the wall read 3:34. My hand shot out toward the door, it slammed shut on its own. The latch clanked from the outside. Locked. The temperature plummeted. Breath turned solid in front of me, hanging like smoke trapped in glass. The walls began to hum, a low vibration that made the metal shelves tremble. "Feed me." The voice wasn't sound, it was pressure in my chest, vibrating up through my ribs. I grabbed the steak and threw it across the room. It hit the creature's chest and slid down onto the floor. The head bent, impossibly, until the beak touched the concrete. A tongue unrolled from its mouth, thick, purple, human. It dragged the steak back with a wet slap and swallowed it whole. The sound it made wasn't chewing. It was mimicking. Like someone trying to remember what eating was supposed to sound like. Then it stopped. Turned its head toward me. The one glass eye clicked into focus. The other socket kept pulsing. More. My body went numb. I grabbed the fries, scattered them across the floor like an offering. The creature shifted again, feathers rustling like paper. As it leaned closer, I saw teeth, rows of them, far too many, glinting from deep inside the throat. Each tooth looked like a carousel pole, spiraled and gold. "You owe more." It wasn't talking about food. I stepped back. My boots slid on the frost. Behind me, the freezer shelves began to shake. Packages burst open, meat, bones, hair, fingers. They spilled onto the floor, forming words in the frost. Pay in tongues. I screamed and hit the door, pounding until my knuckles split. The metal didn't budge. The cold crawled up my arms, turning skin glassy white. Then the humming stopped. The silence was worse. Because then, I could hear it breathing behind me, slow, wet, deliberate. Hot air brushed the back of my neck. I turned. Old Glory was gone. The tray lay empty on the floor, fries scattered into a spiral. In the corner where it had been, the frost had melted into a puddle. Floating in it was a photo, a Polaroid, edges singed. It showed me standing right where I was, 1 second in the future. Behind me, a hand reached out of the darkness, 2 fingers missing, nails blackened. The freezer light went red. Something cold clamped around my ankle and pulled. I fell, hitting the metal hard. The puddle rippled and opened, not water, but a hole. A vertical slit in the floor, pulsing, breathing. I clawed at the shelves, kicked free, dragged myself back just as it snapped shut, spraying ice and blood. The latch released. The door swung open. I didn't remember running out. 1 second I was inside, the next I was on the floor outside, coughing steam. The clock above the counter ticked from 3:33 to 3:34 again, looping. Cole stood over me, unlit cigarette hanging from his mouth. "Guess you made it." "What the hell was that?" I gasped. He knelt down, took my wrist, checked my pulse like a medic. His hand was cold, too. "You met the park's first employee," he said softly. "He's been here since before the rides were built. Before they paved over the burial ground this place was sitting on." I blinked through tears of cold. "You mean that thing was alive?" "Alive enough to file taxes," he muttered. Then, after a pause, "You fed him, didn't you?" I nodded. He looked past me toward the freezer door, which was already frosting shut again. "Good. Then maybe we get one more night of peace." He helped me up, steady but distant, like a man lifting a corpse that hadn't realized it yet. On the counter, my phone buzzed. New message. From unknown. 3:33 a.m., next feed overdue. I deleted it, turned off the phone. Cole walked to the door, looking out toward the rides. The fog had cleared just enough to reveal the Sky Coaster towers, gleaming silver in the moonlight. For the first time, I saw what hung between them, not cable, but a shape, thin and glistening, stretching from tower to tower like a web spun from muscle. Cole lit his cigarette. "You feel it yet?" "What?" He exhaled. "The park breathing. Every night after feeding, it takes one deeper breath. Getting ready to wake up." The cigarette glowed, and for a heartbeat his face changed, eyes hollow, mouth wired shut, skin stiff as paper. Then normal again. I stumbled back, dizzy. He caught my arm. "Rule 6, Valdez. Walk the perimeter. Start at Batman, end at Boomtown. Tighten the chain. If a link's loose." "I know," I said, voice shaking. "Something rides the tracks backward." He smiled faintly, but it wasn't pride. It was pity. "Good. Because tomorrow night, something will." By the third night, I'd stopped checking the clock. Time didn't mean much inside the Midway. It stretched and folded like the park wanted to keep me here, just a little longer each shift. The air had changed. Even the fog felt thicker, like it was carrying whispers I couldn't quite catch. Cole said it meant a storm was coming. He wasn't wrong. Around 11 p.m., thunder rolled over the county, deep enough to make the coasters vibrate. I was doing my usual patrol, walking the chain around the Batman stunt arena, flashlight in one hand, wrench in the other. Each link was slick with rain, cold enough to bite my skin through the gloves. Cole's voice came through the radio, rough, static-laced. "Wind's picking up. Stay close to shelter. Don't let the lights go out." "Roger that," I said, trying to sound steady. Lightning flashed above the park, bright enough to burn the world white. For a second, I saw everything at once, the Ferris wheel, the food court, the Sky Coaster towers looming like crosses against the sky. And for that instant, I swear I saw people on the rides. just sitting there, still as mannequins. Then the light vanished, and they were gone. The rain came down hard after that. It hit the asphalt in sheets, hissing when it touched the hot metal. I kept walking, tightening the chain one link at a time, humming under my breath to drown out the thunder. That's when I felt the vibration. Not from the storm. From the ground. A deep, rhythmic tremor, like the heart of something enormous starting to beat. I pressed my hand to the chain. It was shaking, every link buzzing under my fingers. I followed it toward the north side, near the old roller coaster, the vortex. The closer I got, the stronger the vibration grew. And then I saw it. One of the links, thick, heavy steel, had snapped clean through. Beyond it, the track shimmered like heat mirage. I reached for the radio. "Cole, we've got a loose link." Static swallowed my voice. Then, faintly, "Tighten it now. Before it starts." "Before what starts?" "Just do it, Jess." Then nothing but static. The rain got colder. The floodlights flickered. Somewhere in the distance, I heard the creak of metal, slow, deliberate, like a ride waking up after years asleep. The vortex's chain lift began to move. No power. No lights. But the gears were turning. My breath caught in my throat as the first car, empty, rusted, jerked forward and started crawling up the hill. Backward. I dropped the flashlight. The beam rolled across the ground, catching the glint of something wet and red smeared along the track. The smell hit me next, oil mixed with rot. Then came the sound. A scream, high and metallic, rising from the coaster's tunnel, but it wasn't human. It was the sound of steel bending, tearing. Another lightning flash, and I saw something climbing the coaster. Not up the track, but alongside it, on all fours. Pale limbs, long and jointed wrong, hands clutching the rails like spider legs. Its face pressed against the car window as it passed, dragging itself upward against the rain. I ran. The wrench slipped from my hand as I sprinted down the midway, the chain rattling behind me like it was being pulled. The ground heaved under my feet, the puddles rippled outward, concentric circles spreading toward the center of the park. I could hear the rides moving now, all of them. The carousel spinning, the Ferris wheel creaking, the coaster roaring backward through the dark. Every motor that should have been dead since 2009 was awake again. By the time I reached Boomtown Gate, my lungs were fire. That's where I saw Cole. He was kneeling by the last section of chain, rain pouring down his face, hammering at a loose link with his cane. Lightning flashed again, and for the first time I noticed his hand, bones showing through torn skin, fingers moving wrong, like something else was inside. "Cole!" I shouted. He looked up, eyes blank, pupils gone. "You shouldn't be here. The link's broken. The rides." "I know." He drove the cane into the mud and stood. "Help me finish this before it crosses the fence." "It." He didn't answer. Just motioned me closer. I grabbed the end of the chain and pulled, metal biting into my palms. We locked the broken loop together and slammed the bolt tight. For a moment, the vibration stopped. The park went silent. Then the power grid exploded. Every bulb in the midway flared at once, blinding white, before blowing out. A shockwave of light rolled through the fog, lighting every ride, every stall, every corner. And in that moment of illumination, I saw what the park really was. The rides weren't separate. They were connected, tracks, cables, tunnels, all feeding into one structure beneath the ground. a massive, breathing network of metal and bone. And at its center, something was rising. A hand the size of a bus reached out of the earth behind the Ferris wheel. Skin pale gray, stitched with cables. Nails like iron. When the next lightning bolt hit, I saw the rest, a head forming from debris and flesh, the lion's mane of Old Glory stitched onto it like a crown. Cole grabbed my arm. Run. We barely made it 10 steps before the wind hit, a cyclone of screams and dust. The roller coasters roared to life, cars shooting backward through the dark, their empty restraints clanging like laughter. Cole shoved me behind the concession stand, yelling something I couldn't hear. When I turned back, he was gone. The chain lay broken again. I crawled out, rain and grit burning my eyes. The park lights flickered one last time, casting a flickering pulse over the Midway. In the reflection of a puddle, I saw Cole, standing in front of the Skycoaster towers, facing the thing climbing out from between them. The creature leaned close, massive, its face stitched from dozens of others. And in the roar of thunder, I heard it speak. Ride 13 is open. The ground split. The Skycoaster towers snapped, folding inward like bent nails. I ran. I didn't look back. I don't remember how I got out, just the gate slamming behind me, my car fishtailing down the service road, the rain chasing me like claws on the roof. When I reached the highway, my phone buzzed. One new message. From, unknown. 3:33 a.m., chain link failed. Replacement required. I pulled over, shaking, headlights cutting through empty asphalt. And that's when I saw it, through the rearview mirror, miles behind me. The park lights were on. Every ride glowing, spinning, alive again. And over it all, the Skycoaster cable, gleaming in the storm, swaying side to side like a pendulum counting down the seconds to something I can't stop. By the time I made it back to the Midway, dawn should have been close. But it never came. The sky stayed the same sick shade of purple it had been all night, lightning frozen in the clouds like cracks in glass. The gate behind me slammed shut the moment I stepped through. No sound, no wind, just a click, like a lock being turned from the inside. I told myself I was coming back for Cole. Truth is, I just needed to know what the hell this place really was. The rides were still moving, running backward in perfect sync, every gear moaning like something alive. The floodlights pulsed to a rhythm that wasn't random anymore. 3 beats, pause, 3 beats. Heartbeat. Every step I took made the ground tremble. The park was breathing. The security booth was gone, ripped clean from the asphalt. The only thing left was the map, laminated, blood-stained, pinned to a piece of rebar. The 6 rules were still printed on it, but someone had added a 7th in red ink. Rule number 7, every orientation needs a successor. I didn't understand it then. Not fully. I followed the hum toward the center of the park. The Ferris wheel loomed ahead, turning slow against the storm. Every gondola was full now, silhouettes sitting perfectly still, faces turned toward me. I couldn't make out their eyes, but I knew one of them was watching. The smell of sugar and metal grew thicker as I reached the Skycoaster towers. The ground around them was cracked, the concrete split into jagged seams that breathed steam. In the middle of it all, something shimmered, a hole in the air, faint and circular, like heat distortion. It pulsed. And from it, I heard her voice. Jess. Kayla. My throat closed. She sounded 16 forever, the same laugh I remembered from the night she vanished, echoing from the other side of the static. I stepped closer. Kayla. It's me. Jess. The shimmer widened. For a heartbeat, I saw her, pale, weightless, standing inside what looked like the park, only wrong. The rides gleamed clean and new, the lights bright, the sky daylight blue. Families walked past her, smiling. It was the Midway as it used to be. But every person she passed was transparent. Every smile looped. She pressed her hand against the barrier. Her palm was slick with something dark that wasn't blood but moved like it. You shouldn't have come back. I have to get you out. You can't. Her eyes darted upward. It wakes up when the chain breaks. It feeds until someone replaces him. Cole. She nodded slowly. He kept it asleep. Fed it rules. Fed it blood. Now it wants me again. A sound tore through the air, metal shrieking, the coasters grinding against themselves. The towers began to sway. Jess, she said, voice breaking. If you burn the park, you kill me too. But if you take his place... She stopped. Her face went white, eyes fixed on something behind me. I turned. Cole stood a few yards away, soaked to the bone, face gray as ash. His left arm hung useless, tendons like wire, flesh stitched together with what looked like the same steel that made the chains. Don't listen to her, he rasped. She's part of it now. She's my sister. She's the bait. He stepped closer, dragging the cane through the mud. This thing doesn't die, Jess. It just changes handlers. That's the job. Someone has to keep the rules. I shook my head. You're lying. He reached into his coat and pulled something out, a Polaroid. Me, standing at the park gate on my first night, smiling like I knew what was coming. Look at the bottom, he said. In red marker, orientation number 47, Jess Valdez. I stared at him. What is this? It chooses. Finds the ones already broken. Ex-cops, drunks, vets, anyone who won't be missed. You think that ad was real? Craigslist hasn't posted jobs here in years. Lightning lit his face. I saw the stitches crawling up his neck, silver wire glinting under his skin. It's been waiting for you, he said softly. You've already started changing. You felt the tunnel call, didn't you? Heard the clock stop. I took a step back. No. He smiled, small and tired. Then why are you still here? The wind screamed through the coaster rails. Behind us, the hole widened, spilling light so bright it burned the color out of everything. I could see Kayla reaching through it, mouth open in a silent scream. Cole raised his hand. The skin around his wrist tore, metal cables unfurling from underneath like veins made of wire. They slithered toward me. Take the map, he said. Say the rules. It'll listen. I backed away, tears burning down my face. I'm not becoming you. His expression twisted, pain, regret, maybe pride. Then finish it the other way. The lightning struck the tower. Everything went white. When the world came back, Cole was gone. Only his cane lay in the mud, glowing faintly red-hot. The hole pulsed wider, and Kayla's voice broke through again, clearer this time. Burn it, Jess. Please. My hands were shaking so bad I nearly dropped the lighter. It was still in my pocket from the night before, cheap plastic with a chipped skull decal. I flicked it once. Flame. I tossed it onto the oil-soaked ground. For a second, nothing happened. Then the puddle ignited, a bright blue fire that ran in veins across the concrete, tracing the cracks like circuitry. The rides caught first, wood popping, fiberglass melting into shapes that screamed. The Ferris wheel went last, turning slow, melting into itself as the gondolas fell one by one. The heat drove me backward. The hole shrank, twisting, pulling Kayla's image with it. She smiled through the distortion, not scared, not angry. Just peaceful. "Thank you." Then she was gone. The towers collapsed. The ground buckled. I ran for the gate, smoke filling my lungs, vision blurring. The last thing I remember was the clock above the frozen yogurt stand flickering back to life. 3:33 a.m. When I woke, it was daylight. I was in my car on the service road, engine still running, radio hissing white noise. The park behind me was a smoking crater. The news called it an electrical fire. No casualties. No record of anyone named Mick Ransom working there. No mention of Carnavale Midway Enterprises at all. But that night, after the sirens faded and the sky turned normal again, I heard it, faint through the static of my dashboard speaker. "Welcome back to the Midway, where the fun never sleeps." My phone buzzed once. A new message. From unknown. 3:33 a.m., orientation complete. Attached was a photo. The same map. My handwriting. 7 rules. And at the bottom, a note written in someone else's hand. Rule number 8, never quit without training your replacement. I threw the phone out the window and drove until the highway disappeared into daylight. But no matter how far I go, I still hear the ride sometimes, faint, metallic laughter bleeding through static when the clock hits 3:33. And last week, someone slid an envelope under my motel door. Inside was a printed job listing. Carnavale Midway Enterprises. Night maintenance, $1,000 per week cash. Must provide own flashlight. No references required. Underneath, handwritten in red. Training available, Jess V.